Does Jade finally have her most serious contender today as Taya Valkyrie makes her AEW debut? We're going to talk about the new possible challenger for the TBS title and, of course, the road to WrestleMania. So stay tuned. This is Wrestle Extra.
Oh, yo, this is Wrestle Extra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. Of course, joined by my trios team, Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will, and the professor that is Gerard Bonner. Taya Valkyrie is in AEW. Mrs. Hennigan is here.
Governments,
of course,
wow.
Of course. Mrs. Henny, as I like to call her. So Taya Valkyrie has appeared in AEW, and it went the way that Gerard said it would go last week. Tony Khan's been listening and watching the show, so we thought, oh, Gerard's got a good point there. Let me do that. So we knew that there was this little build-up to Jade facing a Canadian female wrestler for her next title defense on last week's Dynamite. We had, I've completely forgotten her name, an indie wrestler from
Canada.
Yes.
Say Amanda something, but yeah, she was an indie wrestler from Canada, a veteran, they said, but yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Jade defeated her. Jade then grabs the mic, says a few things. Lo and behold, boom, boom, boom. Taya Valkyrie steps out of the curtain. And what was interesting, and I completely forgot this, what was interesting, Taya Valkyrie's come down to the ring. Jade's quickly made her exit out of the ring, but then Layla Gray was prone to, what is Jade's finishing move, but it's also been Taya's finishing move for however long. So it's now, it seems like it's a battle between these two finishing. Who can do it better? Who makes it look better? I don't know. It's one of them ones. But at the same time, Taya Valkyrie, with the legendary career that she's had so far, accolades upon accolades everywhere she's been, is this the most serious contender that we have had for Jade's TBS championship? We've had Nyla Rose. She beat her, a former AEW Women's Champion. We also had Athena, the current ROH Women's Champion, former NXT Women's Champion. Jade beat her too. But is Taya any different to those two? Gerard, I'm going to let you jump in on this one first. Do you think we will see a change in the TBS championship with Taya Valkyrie?
Well, to your first point, she is absolutely the most viable contender that Jade has faced. This battle of the same finishing moves, kind of takes me back to Sting and Bret Hart battling over the sharpshooter, or the scorpion deathlock. Like, is it that? Is it the bookend, or is it the rock bottom? Like, what is it that we're dealing with here? I think this is good. This is very good. She is certainly the most tenured wrestler that Jade has battled. She has the best resume of anybody that Jade has battled. And should Jade lose the TBS championship, we would all be okay if it's Taya Valkyrie. So this checks all of the boxes. It really, really does. And quite frankly, the idea that we've seen Jade more on Instagram than on our televisions tells us an awful lot. And granted, she's been doing the Lord's work on Instagram, no doubt about that. But with that said, she should be given the opportunity to do that there on our TV screens. So if the build-up to Taya Valkyrie is going to get us that and remind people, oh, yeah, that's right, she is our TBS champion, then that's a good thing. Could Taya be the one? I think she could.
Mix. So we have Taya, we have Jade. We have upcoming pay-per-views with AEW. When should this match happen? How should we get to it? What's going to happen?
I don't know if we wait until the next pay-per-view, which is what, Double or Nothing. Well, Double or Nothing's in what, May?
In May. It's enough
I
time
mean,
for an accurate build-up.
yeah. To be fair, I'm just looking at the date now, my calendar. We're already at the end of
We're
March.
in the March right now. So 2
So
months.
we're looking at something like maybe a 6-week kind of build, which is that's what it deserves, especially if you're going to dethrone Jade, which is definitely what I think needs to happen. Nothing against Jade. I think it has run its course. I think it's run its course so much that they've almost let her down in terms of how they've now been kind of booking her, especially once she reached 50-0. I think it's got to be Taya Valkyrie, and because if it's not Taya Valkyrie, there's still the names of the Statlanders that we've mentioned in the past, the Willow Nightingales. However, as an accomplished wrestler, Taya is head and heels above these names that we're mentioning. So if Jade should be losing to, it's this person. Let her run with it for a while, and then she can almost put over that next generation talent of a Statlander or Willow Nightingale. It's kind of the perfect person to do it. It's just now, how do they book this over the next maybe 6 to 8 weeks for us to really care, make her a threat, make Jade, either kind of question herself or just kind of be more big and bold and more arrogant. And then maybe it's that arrogance that is her fall. But the general way of how they got to this, I was very happy to see they kind of took advice from the show, as you said, to kind of get there. I did love the part where Jade turns to Renee when she was doing the interview and goes, "Renee, you're from Canada too, aren't you?"
Yes, that was great.
Backed her into the corner and kissed her forehead and everything.
Yes.
I thought that was good, and these are the kind of things we need to we won't get that backstage. That needs to happen out front. So it's a different kind of character or way you show your character when you're in front of the live crowd and when you are backstage where you could afford to mess up and they could be like, "Oh, let's do that again." So I think the segment was really good, and obviously then Taya had her match on Rampage on Friday night. Simple got the win, so we're heading in the right direction for this.
So from what we've seen previously with Jade, the build-up that we had before in the past, one that was kind of worked out was the one with Nyla Rose. That had its time. The one that was very longed out and didn't quite work was the one with Athena. But now then we also have, obviously Tyler's new to this, or new to AEW even. And we know AEW does the whole, wins matter and blah, blah, blah. So this match can't happen next week. It can't happen in 2 weeks. Taya has to have a few wins under her belt in order to actually challenge Jade, or to actually, be viable for a match. So I'm guessing for me, it has to be this thing of weeks of build-up, and then we do it at Double or Nothing. And I'm with you both on this, where I'm saying Taya has to win, because the two things that would go wrong if she doesn't is, one, we're still holding on to Jade as TBS champion, and you're giving her nothing to do. You don't know what you're going to do with her next. I guarantee you there is no plan, for the next 6 months with Jade at the moment. And to have someone like Taya come in to then lose, for me, is just crazy. It's crazy. Now, maybe there could have been, we had this whole thing of building up, this thing in Canada and whatnot. If that wasn't the case, maybe it could have been a thing where Taya just comes in as a new signee and she does whatever she does without, with Jade hanging over her head. But they brought her straight in at Jade. So for me, for her to come in straight in as a championship contender and then lose, I'm sure she never signed a dotted line for that to happen. I'm almost sure. Right. But then the thing is, okay, so then what do we do if it be a case where Jade loses? What then happens with Jade? What does she do?
I think a Jade loss really is a Jade graduation, right? Like, this is not you lose and you fall in the pecking order. Because of the way they set up this TBS championship, they've clearly made a division between the world championship group and the TBS group. So she's graduated from this and moved now to the world title picture. Now I'm going to bring up a name that we hardly ever bring up on this show, but this is actually where AEW could have learned a lesson from the NWA, where the NWA and their TV championship, after you've had 7 title defenses successfully, you can then cash it in for a shot at the world title. That would have been a brilliant move for the TBS championship, where you say, okay, after X number of defenses, you can now challenge for the world title. What this would have done is, she would not have had to have lost the title. She could have relinquished the championship. And now you elevate her to the world title picture, and it all still makes sense. So since they aren't doing that, I think a loss to someone as tenured and respected as Taya is a big win for Jade, because now it frees her of the albatross that is the TBS championship and puts her in a space where now she can challenge for the world title. Because the other side of it is, who's really challenging for the world title? Right now, the world championship is kind of locked up in this outcast versus homegrown stars war. And so we're not even talking about the world championship as its own entity. Again, enter Jade Cargill, which adds something completely different, because she hasn't touched any of those folks who are hanging around the world title picture.
Right. Max, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, to be honest, it's a lot of what Gerard has said, and I'm just going to bring up this comment. Big up Ches Nasty. He's been really enjoying the show over the last few weeks. A lot of good comments. It says here that I think he says means if Jade loses, it's time to move her to battle it out with the bigger names on the roster. It's past that time. Yeah, it's definitely about time to kind of introduce her there. Again, I think we can all probably recognize she's not quite ready, for that next step up per se. But those are the names she needs to tangle with, because she's beaten everybody fairly easily in her division in that side of the women's roster. So, to get her involved wouldn't be a bad shout. Even if, depending on when they're gonna, do this title match, maybe between her and Taya, and depending on what the end game is for this outsiders and originals feud, could be a very good way to kind of just gently introduce her to that next division up in a few tag matches, or just kind of rubbing shoulders with those people to kind of let the crowd know that she's next up in she's in that division sort of thing, and rubbing shoulders with the right people. Gareth here, football, he says, if Taya wins, I riot.
Hilarious. Wow. Jade is your forever champion, I see.
Wow.
Will Chisholm, it's crazy to me that there's no long-term booking for Jade. It feels like the booking is week to week. Joey says, or maybe they could put option C on both the TNT and TBS title and give them a chance to gamble that belt in return for a shot at the women's title at any time.
For sure.
Gareth also says, I don't think a move to ROH for another long title reign is a demotion for Jade. She can learn there and still wrestle on AEW TV. It'll be good, in my opinion.
Yeah, yes and no.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yes and no. And here's my yes and no, because I think they've really worked hard to try to establish Ring of Honor separately from AEW.
Recently,
so there's that recently. Secondly, I would argue that Ring of Honor's women's division right now is better than AEW's women's division, but we'll talk about that at some point.
Oh, let's get into that right now, because
here's the other thing. The other thing is, watching Jade go from a year-long title reign to another year-long title reign is not interesting. Yeah. We need to see, how does Jade respond once she's lost? Because that's one thing we've not seen in her career already. How do you handle a loss? Do you completely fall apart? How do you work harder to get better? Like, we need to see that. We've not seen any vulnerability. We've made a lot of talk about Bianca and what we've not seen there, but we've seen no vulnerability with Jade. We've seen that. We don't know how she responds to a loss. We don't know any of that. So I think those are the areas that can develop. And I mean, the way she's built, think about this. She was the number 5 woman of all women wrestlers, according to PWI for 2022. Taking her to the Ring of Honor world title right now is not the answer. Taking her to the AEW world title is the answer. The question is, can we get her there in a way that shows, okay, now she's going to grow. She's actually weathered the storm in losing, and now she can really challenge super well. Now, granted, I don't think she needs to go on a losing spree. I don't think that's the answer either. I think she should be in there with some more experienced people and get us to a point where we get into a series, perhaps with, you know, a Britt Baker or you know, even a Saraya or a Tony Storm or something like that, and move us to a place where we're now fighting for the world title. But there are enough worthy contenders where we can get a good war in there, and we can start to see what Jade is really made of.
Right. I think for me, if she loses, I think a time away would be a very good thing to do.
Sure.
A time away, not necessarily for her to go and train and blah, blah, nothing like that, but more so for the fact of the big return. For me, that then brings her into whatever level you want to bring her to, whether that's challenging straight away for the AEW Women's Championship or doing the same thing as you said, Gerard, kind of having a program with a Tony Storm or a Ruby Soho or someone who's on the upper, you know, the upper level of the AEW Women's division, and then we go towards the AEW Women's Championship. To throw her straight in after a loss, I mean, we've got 6 weeks. We don't know what's going to happen with this whole Outcasts and you know, and the AEW Women's Championship at the moment. That could go anywhere. So to have that kind of play out, then have Jade come in some way, for me would be perfect. Then you've got the whole thing with Taya. Taya can do whatever she's doing, as Mex already mentioned, kind of putting a few people over, like your Sky Blues, your Willow Nightingales, maybe a Chris Statlander return, something like that. I think for me, that would be the perfect way to kind of go about this whole thing. But then my fear is, have they booked that long term already? If they haven't, I'm worried about what's going to happen with all of these ladies involved in AEW in general. You know what I mean? And that's the worrying thing for me. As someone said, it's like it feels very much a week to week thing, even with the AEW Women's Championship as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure where it's going to go.
What do you think of Jade as a babyface?
I'm not mad at that.
Not at all.
I'm not mad at that at all.
I think, you know what? Yeah. I was going to say, Gerard, I don't think we were that far away from it at one point. Probably about halfway through her reign, we kind of like touching that whole thing with the crowd really being behind her and stuff. And it could have gone that way. So to think of Jade as a babyface is not a difficult thing to think at all. And I think it could work if done right. Again. There
was just on that. I think it was like consistent weeks when I think we even started saying Rampage is her show.
Right.
I think it was somewhere around then, maybe just before the baddies became a thing.
Yeah.
That's when she definitely was kind of catching a bit of heat. Yeah.
I mean, it was when she was the one who was bringing in the numbers.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When the shows are on and Jade's on TV, that's when people were watching the most.
Right.
You know what I mean? That we definitely can't say that now. But it was the case then, and I think that would have been a very good time to maybe turn the tables a little in terms of a character and stuff like that. It wasn't inevitable; it didn't have to happen, but it just would have been a good time to do it. So we're talking about the AEW Women's Division, and we've mentioned the ROH Women's Division as well. And Gerard's already said it. We probably don't even need to do this discussion anymore. No, but let's do it. It's quite clear to see that there is a lot more investment, or the ladies in ROH are given more time to put themselves across. Now, a few weeks ago, we had the whole talk of where's this women's division going to go, because we had Athena versus Willow Nightingale. We said, oh, does this mess up Supercard of Honor? But what they've done since then is kind of been like, okay, you've answered the questions that we were asking. Gerard, you go with this one. In your opinion, why exactly do you feel you're more invested in ROH women than the AEW at the moment?
Well, for one, they're given much more time on television. you know, and they're given a better quality of match. Like we're not getting, like we're just talking about Jade. Jade had literally a 60-second match to set up the arrival of Taya Valkyrie. And this is your undefeated TBS champion, right? Meanwhile, we flip over to Ring of Honor. We're seeing, you know, Athena really come into her own. Like the matches Athena, you know, are having right now and the character that she's developing, this may be the best version of her we have seen in many years. I mean, like it predates NXT when we start talking about how good she is right now. The match she had with Willow was incredible. You know, the opponent that she's getting lined up right now for Supercard of Honor is like, wow, okay, this is what we're doing. You know, I expected this with AEW women's division, but we're not getting that. We're also in the process seeing the rise of Trish Adora, which I think is a brilliant move. Trish Adora has spent a lot of time on AEW Dark, but before AEW purchased Ring of Honor, you know, Athena, excuse me, I just saw Athena, sorry. Trish Adora, let me get it straight. Trish Adora was really doing big things in the Ring of Honor women's division. And so, of course, things changed. And to now give her that opportunity where she is crushing it with great matches. To me, I like seeing the solidifying of a champion and the rising of other stars. When you can see both of those things happening, now we have multiple reasons to watch. In AEW, they're either giving us one or the other. We're either going to get this Outcast thing or we're going to get Jade. We don't get both, which I don't understand. So Ring of Honor clearly has a better women's division already, and it's only been 3 weeks. But the caliber of matches we're seeing on weekly television, you know, the building of their world champion, the building of other stars says to me, yeah, this division is what I was hoping AEW's women's division would be.
Mex, have you been watching AEW's women? Like, who kind of stands out for you? Who stood out for you so far?
AEW's women or Ring of Honor's
women?
women?
Ring of Honor's women, sorry.
Athena for sure, because I feel like since she won it, we haven't seen much of her. I don't watch Dark or Dark Elevation, so I know she's been doing some stuff on there, but before Ring of Honor was a thing, I hadn't seen her. So I think now it's just seeing, you know, this character kind of come into her own. And even when we thought, you know, they had the match with Willow the other week, and it's just like, oh, like that's come a bit early, but you know, she's gone through that. They've set up now the Supercard of Honor match. Like, I just feel like it's just good stuff for her. Trish Adora as well, kind of seeing her you know, kind of reemerge back on Ring of Honor, if you like. Well, of course we saw Willow early on as well. I think what's just really good again is they're being simple with the booking. It's just simple stuff. Like Willow won a match. Willow had an interview. Willow called out the champion. The champion replied, and they had the following match the next week. Now, you know, Athena's won her match. She's setting up the feud. What's her name with Suka? What's her face?
I can't even remember.
Let me grab it.
Yukonami.
It's Yuka. Anyway,
yes.
Yeah, and that's off the back of what they were previously doing on Dark or Dark Elevation, I've been told. So it's just very that's it. Thank you, Gareth.
I knew Gareth. I knew Gareth was the right one.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just very straightforward. It's very simple. Like the outsider stuff, like I think so we got maybe an outsider segment alongside Jade being on the Dynamite last week, but it's like you're not nailing these segments. You may be putting them both on TV, but like it's just like let's get it right, especially that, you know, with the women's stuff, you're only gonna give us more time, one segment per night. This is a rare occasion where we saw two. Like, let's absolutely nail it. Like, but I think maybe just take it back to basics. And the outsiders versus the originals thing is pretty basic, but we need to move it along. I personally don't like the fact that Jamie Hayter is embroiled in it so much. Like that's my champion. I need her to be doing championship stuff, or just don't forget she's holding that belt whilst she's doing this stuff. You see what I mean? So yeah, I just need a bit more, especially going towards the pay-per-view for Jamie Hayter. We can get a bit more out of that. But the Ring of Honor woman, 100% it's a lot more entertaining right now, and time to actually show your skills on TV and get people invested in you beyond squash matches is so important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the problem we have with this whole outside the Outcasts and AEW women's championship is the fact that within the group of the Outcasts, there's no one who is the actual contender for the AEW women's division. If it was a thing where two of them are feuding and they kind of just had a six women tag match with friends, not so bad. Whereas at the moment, you just don't really know the reason behind it. The Outcast maybe should have had a feud with 3 other AEW originals and then move on to, or one of them moves on to the AEW Women's Champion. In ROH, I think as you both said already, they're just doing it simple. Give them their matches, showcase who they are. I love to see that Trish Adora's getting a few wins, stuff like that. We saw Athena defeat Hyan. So even with Hyan, Trish Adora, Willow Nightingale, they were all heavily involved in the ROH Women's division just before it disbanded. So it's nice to see all of them kind of, come back in, doing their thing. Lady Frost as well. Sky Blue was another one who was kind of in and around it at that time as well. So it's nice to see as well that some of these ladies, as much as they've appeared on AEW, they weren't then established in AEW, but it's happening on ROH now. So we can clearly see that, that they're trying to establish people in ROH separately, which is a great thing to see. We may see them on AEW Dark or Elevation. I don't think it kind of really matters. It's kind of a bit of I don't want to say it like this, but I'm going to, a bit of a throwaway show. So it's not like it has much impact on then what happens on our TV screens and what the masses then see, which is great. Speaking of returns and people who were involved in ROH before, we've seen the return, and thank the Lord, I've been waiting for this for forever. Shane Taylor has finally showed his face in ROH. So former Ring of Honor television champion in Silas Young had a match. He had his first match back as well after I think a year and a half, I believe they were saying. Then of course grabbed the mic, talked about himself, saying that he was the best television champion in ROH history. Lo and behold, Shane Taylor had to remind him of who he is. The baddest champion in ROH history. And them two are set to face each other in a match next week. Now, from this match, 2 former ROH TV champions. Where does that go from here? Because the only thing I can see is Shane Taylor versus Samoa Joe.
Hasn't Samoa Joe already got a match at Supercard of Honor though?
He does against Mark Briscoe.
Yeah,
I don't care when it is. I don't care when it is. I don't care if he does. I just want to see Samoa Joe, Shane Taylor, whether it's on ROH TV, whether it's Supercard of Honor, where it's like 3-4 months down the line. I'm just trying to see Shane Taylor win back the ROH championship. Do you think that, with Shane Taylor in ROH now, what then happens? We've seen him on AEW. He had a few matches. He appeared for like about 3 or 4 weeks, disappeared. Do you think that there could be a long-term plan or, for Shane Taylor in ROH? Does that need to happen? I'll go to Mex.
I don't know about a long-term plan. I would like to think so. However, obviously, I don't know. Again, with the faction stuff, Shane Taylor Promotions, if they're gonna kind of look to embed him into the 6-man tag field, if you like. Even that in itself, with all these rumors that Brian Cage is leaving, they retained their titles the other day. So it's interesting to see. But there's a couple of routes that they could go. Even if Mark Briscoe is obviously going to hand over this tag team championship while they're doing the Reach for the Sky ladder match. I don't know if they ultimately just give Mark Briscoe the TV title on the same night, and then we can get into him versus Shane Taylor, because you don't come back making noise about you're the greatest TV champion without then re-entering that division.
Right.
So yeah, him versus Samoa Joe would be what I would love to see as well. But I just don't know. I don't know how much more Samoa Joe is going to get out of this run. If now that ROH TV's up and running, will they kind of move him into a bit of like that recruitment position that he was doing in WWE, and you know, just kind of slowly start winding down his career? It'll be interesting, but I think Shane Taylor has a lot to offer. Again, this is one of these people that was like a staple in Ring of Honor before,
right.
So fans will be happy to kind of see him back in the fold. Again, it's just, are we going to get the promotion and all the gas that came with that, or will it just be a solo run?
Gerard, what are your thoughts?
You know what? Let me tell you what I like the most about this. I think a lot of people were concerned, myself included, when Ring of Honor was purchased by AEW and we went that whole year without much of anything. You know, would this resemble what Ring of Honor did? And many people likened it to when WWE relaunched ECW. I think we've got some major differences this time around. Besides bringing back the original commentary team and adding an hour to see some of the older names from Ring of Honor make their return is a welcomed thing, you know. So whether it is Dalton Castle and the boys, or certainly seeing Silas Young, you know, seeing Shane Taylor, this is important because it says that Ring of Honor really is becoming its own standalone promotion and isn't just, as many people want to call it, AEW light. Like, that's important. So where they go with this, I think they have options. And here's one of the things that if they decide to let Shane Taylor be Shane Taylor, because we all know that if Shane Taylor is Shane Taylor, we get to see some special things. Where they have some opportunity to do that is, so far, this Ring of Honor television program is commercial free, which, you know, if we ride that out, they're basically riding this right now off of the subscriptions to Honor Club. Okay. So if that's the case and you don't have people paying commercials and doing ads and things like that, that means you are a little more free potentially with what you can do on your television screens, which means if Shane Taylor goes full Shane Taylor Promotions, it's much easier to do on Honor Club than it is on TBS and TNT.
Right.
So in terms of where they go, I hope that they're going there in the sense of allowing these people to be who they are and allowing Ring of Honor to be Ring of Honor. Because if this is the case, we get something really, really compelling and a true alternative to AEW inside of that same umbrella, which is brilliant. So, you know, it's still early to see where Shane Taylor could go, but the fact that we're seeing him in a program with someone in Ring of Honor about something concerning Ring of Honor is a very good thing. It's a good thing. And so if it means him down the road, you know, fighting Mark Briscoe or Samoa Joe, either match I think would be amazing. I think there are all sorts of opportunities, really all sorts of opportunities. Nothing but wins for this Ring of Honor. And with Shane Taylor coming back, that's a massive win.
Just bring up Gareth's last comment. He says to give TK some credit, he's a ROH fan. He wants to keep the spirit of it alive, which is nice. And you know what? I'll give him his credit because so far, I don't think anything's gone wrong. The production level, the matches, the way things are being built, the decisions being made that we've seen so far. There's nothing really to take away from it. Nothing's perfect, but at the same time, the things that aren't probably not working or some people don't like, it's not like it's then going to tarnish the whole brand. And I'm hoping this is something that continues. For me, I think this whole thing with Shane Taylor, there definitely needs to be some kind of STP in some way, shape, or form. I remember when ROH disbanded and we were trying to work out what's going to happen with Shane Taylor. I always kept on saying AEW does not have the balls to bring in STP.
He did, yeah.
And they clearly didn't. But at the same time, as Gerard's just said, with ROH being on Honor Club, you know, the floodgates are open to do almost whatever they want to do. So an STP would be a perfect place for them to kind of come back again. What's then interesting when you think about STP, obviously they were six-man tag team champions, but Khan was part of that group as well. He is now with the Embassy. Imagine now, you know, the kind of conflict that could happen there. If those two teams meet at some point, if the Embassy are still six-man tag team champions, I mean, even if they're not, there's still some kind of storyline and some kind of conflict that we can see there. So, you know, it's interesting. I'm hoping it happens. But even if not, we've got Shane Taylor who can still do his own thing, you know, on ROH and, you know, with the whole ROH TV championship. Another thing that was interesting, which I'm actually quite baffled at, is we've got a new trios team with Metalik, Blake Christian, and AR Fox. AR Fox is a little bit random for me because obviously AR Fox has been teaming in trios matches with Top Flight. It seems as though Top Flight, you know, are now emerged in this whole little thing with the Kingdom, which is great to see them kind of on tag team focused stuff. But then to kind of just throw AR Fox with another team and not just kind of like still kind of be around Top Flight, for me was kind of like, why?
Do you think it's a permanent move though?
Well, they said we have a new trios team, and then they went, you know, and went for the Embassy after they won their match. So it kind of feels as though that's a very much established team now. And I said, you know, as I said, with Top Flight now kind of in this whole feud with the Kingdom, it looks as though they've kind of parted ways. Is that a good move, a bad move? Does it matter? Does it make sense? Mex, what do you think?
Well, if they've distanced AR Fox and they've made this kind of announcement, then maybe it's just to kind of say, right, we're putting Dante and Darius into the main tag division, whether that's on Ring of Honor or on AEW. Which I don't think is a bad thing. I was saying, obviously, it looks like in terms of AEW TV, the trios title is now like the premier tag title, with the actual tag title being used to kind of maybe cultivate some of the younger talents and stuff. And in that case, while the Guns have it, the Acclaimed had it before them. That's where Darius and Dante should be. They should be kind of getting themselves ready for this, you know, tag division as it currently looks, you know, how they're kind of going with it in terms of the current direction. Now it only takes, you know, an FTR or a Young Bucks to come down to that division and all of a sudden we're all super invested in it again and whatever. But right now, if this is kind of the direction they're going, or even, you know, once they kind of crown the new Ring of Honor tag champions and whoever is going to hold those belts, those two should be in the mix. I mean, God bless Dante Martin. I was just keeping his brother's name alive for years on end, you know, and that whole division just the whole tag team, like they put him into single stuff, they gave him new partners. I was remembering today because I watched I don't know, watch along on the Wrestling's channel, watching New Japan Cup finals, and Leo Rush was obviously he had a junior heavyweight match against Hiromu, and I'm thinking, oh my god, Leo Rush was once a partner with Dante Martin, and
crazy.
It feels like a lifetime ago, but he's really tried. I think if not for anything, Dante Martin definitely is owed a tag run like with his brother, and they would set the world alight. So they should definitely have that that focus. I wouldn't be against you know, a serious trios run with AR Fox either, but no, I think they've been apart enough. Like, let the brothers cook together and you know, just do something special wherever they're going to get their opportunity, whether it's Ring of Honor or AEW.
It's interesting, you know, because I'm thinking we've got this Reach for the Sky ladder match. I think it would actually be a great, obviously I'm guessing Top Flight will be in there in that mix in some way at some point. But yeah, Gerard, do you think it's more important for them to win the AEW Tag Team Championship or the ROH Tag Team Championship? Does it make a difference?
That's an interesting question, considering they do have a title match against the Guns tomorrow night. I think that's super interesting. Here's why it's also interesting. It was just a couple of weeks ago that they pinned the Young Bucks for the first time.
Right.
And, so it's like, they're somewhat building them up. I do feel like, and this is the challenging part because I think Mex nailed it. It's clear that without AEW formally telling us, the trios division is now the important division in comparison to the tag division. So it does lend itself to the question, which is the more important tag title right now? The Ring of Honor tag title or the AEW tag title? And it's hard to answer that because on one hand, you've got the AEW tag titles, which we all still think about FTR, the Bucks, and even the reign of Swerve in Our Glory, right? And of course Hangman and Kenny Omega. We don't think a lot about the Acclaimed or the Guns. So right now, if Top Flight beats the Guns, I don't think it'll mean as much as if they go in and win these Ring of Honor tag team titles. So for me, I'm going to lean on the Ring of Honor tag titles simply because in tribute to the Briscoes, they're going to have amazing tag teams in this ladder match, and they're going to go all the way in. So that group versus the Guns, I think I'm going to have to go with the Ring of Honor tag titles on this one.
It's interesting, this whole thing of brothers as well, when you just said about the Briscoes.
Yes.
We've already got the Lucha Brothers in that match. Obviously, we were talking about Dante and Darius as well as brothers. The Guns, I doubt they'll be part of this match, but you've got the Guns at the moment who are holding tag team championships as well. For me, I think I agree with you, Gerard, in terms of what seems to be a little more important for Top Flight, not necessarily as the company as a whole, but I think what's more important for Top Flight themselves is to hold the ROH championships. It would just feel a little different. I guess it's kind of similar. I don't really want to do this whole comparing ROH to NXT, but I think it's very similar. If Top Flight were in WWE, for example, and kind of going in between the two, the NXT one would be a little bit more important. It kind of gives them a little bit more free reign as well to do what they want to do and how they want to do it and stuff like that. AEW, yes, is a lot more free than WWE would be, but at the same time, there just feels like there's more substance with them winning ROH than winning the AEW one. Speaking of tag teams, but moving on from AEW, we've been told on, I think it was on SmackDown, that we are going to have this tag team showcase match at WrestleMania, involving the Street Profits, Braun Strowman and Ricochet, Viking Raiders, and Alpha Academy. Gerard, me and Meg spoke about this just before the show, so I'm going to go to Gerard first. Gerard, what are your thoughts on this match in general? I'm just going to ask the question. What are your thoughts on this match in general?
So, one of the things that I think is good is that we are seeing seemingly a bigger commitment to tag team wrestling in the WWE. The WWE over the last few years has not necessarily, outside of, say, the Usos, New Day, and the Street Profits, there hasn't always been a commitment to tag team wrestling on the men or women's side. Certainly not as much on the women's side. To see a match like this happen for both the men and the women as a showcase, I love that because it doesn't try to tie a feud to it. This is saying we're just really trying to see who some of the best tag teams are, and we're giving them a space here at WrestleMania to do it. You've got 4 tag teams who have been prominent tag teams certainly over the last year. Of course, lately what Ricochet and Braun Strowman have done, kind of coming together as a tag team, could really be cool. The Street Profits are established, as is Alpha Academy, as is the 4th team who I just can't remember right now. Viking Raiders, right? So my concern with this match is with two people. You have Otis, who right now is trying to determine, am I Otis or am I Otis? Right? Like, who am I? Am I this refrigerator or am I a hand model? Like, who am I? Right? Like, that's the question that's being asked. So you have that. And then you have the conundrum that is Montez Ford. Here it is, Montez Ford, who, you know, at the Elimination Chamber had this incredible entrance, is basically the third to the last man eliminated. We see, here is a star. And you raised the point, okay, why has nobody talked about his star-making performance on commentary? Instead, we just keep putting him back into matches with the Street Profits. And then last night, out of the blue, he ends up in a match against the U.S. champion, where he dominated the match. I mean, the things he pulled off, I was like, okay, so you're really creating confusion right now, because you can't tell me as he walks into this match that at WrestleMania, he's going to be in this tag team showcase, but he's just showing the world right now he can beat the U.S. champion. So I'm concerned because it's very clear that you could have two tag teams not leave WrestleMania as tag teams based on what we're seeing with Montez and Otis. I refuse to call him Otis anymore. He's earned Otis. I am a hand model who eats cake and pie and cheese. It's all good, right? So for me, that's my concern. Now, if they can use this tag team match to somehow make these breakups official, I'll be okay with that too. Because there's no need right now to keep teasing us with continuing the Street Profits if they're not going to go after tag team gold. And it's clear that we keep seeing them in more individual matches than tag team matches. So let's just make the split happen, make it amicable. They support each other. Whoever gets the race to the title first wins. It's great, right? The other question about the tag title match is, so for whoever wins, what does it mean, right? Like at least a couple of WrestleManias ago, when you had the women's fatal four-way, the winner got a shot at the women's tag titles the next night. Like, we could rock with that. But we now know that you've got a tag title match that's happening. So what is this supposed to showcase? Is it just showcasing we have four great tag teams here? Do they become number one contenders? Like, what is it? And you have teams from SmackDown and teams from Raw. So is it that they're going to fight for the undisputed tag titles? Are they going to try to set, like, explain it to me? Don't just throw it out there 12 days before WrestleMania so we can say, wow, we're glad they're on the card. It's got to mean something. It's WrestleMania, right? This is the 39th one. We don't do random matches anymore, right? We did that, you know, at 3 and at 6 and at 9. We don't have to do that now. And we've got 2 days. So let's make it make sense. That's my request for this. But I'm concerned because we have 2 clear singles paths happening with 2 of the 4 tag teams in here. Kind of interesting.
Mex, what are your thoughts on this showcase match? The eyes are rolling.
This is the payday match. This is I've got some other stars I need to put on the card. Let me get them on the card.
Right.
Like, okay, so as a lot has been said about the Battle Royals, the WrestleMania Battle Royals, men's and women's. I'm since childhood, I've been a fan of a Battle Royal. I love the over the top rope nonsense. Like, I would personally rather have that, include more people. And it's the same old fodder, because let's be honest, these guys here, the women's and the men's, they're not getting like up to 15 minutes. Like, this is just going to be, have your entrances, have your quick moments. I would love what Gerard is saying. Let's tell a couple of stories. Let's see, you know, this has to be, you know, the splitting point for me, definitely of Chad and Ortiz. Like, I'm not so sure if they'll go that way with the Street Profits just yet, but for Gable and Ortiz, because that story is going at speed at this point.
Right.
Like, this has to be the point, and maybe what causes them to lose and one of them gets pinned or whatever the case is. With the women, they said they're doing qualifying matches. I was like, who's the tag teams? Who's It's the tag teams. They should have done it the other way and put the men to qualify. At least there's a couple more tag teams and guys that are affiliated backstage, and they could have done something. Who are the tag teams in the women's division? When Liv Morgan and Raquel came walking out, I was like, when did they even become friends? Because last time we saw them, they was what, Elimination Chamber. The time before that, I think Liv just slapped the hell out of Raquel backstage for something. Like, now they come out hugging and everything, and I'm thinking, like, you're really forcing this. Emma and Tegan Knox, give me a break.
That really made no sense, because Tegan was a good guy or good girl or what? Yeah, weird.
Yeah, like it's like, come on, like we don't really have tag teams like that. So especially the women, you're just throwing people together. Again, it's to get them on the card, to get them a payday. I hear it somewhat, but yeah, if you want to make WrestleMania this prestigious event with, you know, blow off matches for things that have been happening, people are gonna have to miss out. And I can't lie, even as the weeks got closer to now, I was thinking it's mad the Street Profits are gonna miss out. Before they announced this, I was thinking it's very mad, because as big as they are, like they aren't deserving because there's been no booking for them.
Right.
So if you're really kind of trying to, you know, rein in this card, then they shouldn't be there. Strowman and Ricochet, they've had enough opportunities at the tag titles and stuff. They shouldn't be there. Like, Liv Morgan, who we mentioned him before, like Liv Morgan's had a great last year, really.
Yes.
But in the last couple months, she shouldn't be there. Like, it's so it's like you're playing this kind of, yeah, you guys shouldn't be here, but you're too big to leave off. And yeah, like with the women, I think maybe a battle royal would have maybe just sufficed, and maybe they can do the tag team stuff with some of these guys. But, you know, I mean, we're yet to talk about another man that he wasn't even on Raw last night, and, you know, we're talking about getting people on the card. Like, yeah, there's I can't say I'm a fan of this tag team stuff, but I get it, paydays and stuff. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
I think I'm with you both on all of this. It's kind of like, why? But at the same time, with what Gerard said, with these, you know, two tag teams that are kind of, you know, not kind of like breaking up a little, or there's cracks in you know, in their teams and their relationships and stuff. It most definitely has to be the breaking up of Alpha Academy. I think that's certain. I think we can expect that one to happen. With Montez and Angelo Dawkins, it's not as obvious, but at the same time, for me, when I'm thinking about this match, I'll be very honest, I'll actually want to see an absolute load of chaos. I just want to see chaos in this match. So these two teams breaking up, or at least the start of Montez and Angelo kind of maybe having some kind of misunderstanding, whether it's a fallout altogether, or just I've got to do this, you've got to do that, we're still friends, blah, blah, blah. I think even something has to go wrong with Ricochet and Braun Strowman, and then let the Viking Raiders take the win and move on to whatever. I was hoping when Adam Pearce was backstage before he was interrupted by Chelsea Green, he was about to say that the showcase matches are going to be for the number one contendership for blah, 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 blah.
Right.
That's what I was waiting for. Obviously, it never happened. So again, as Gerard said, we still don't know what the actual point is in the match. In terms of the women, I feel as though what they should have done with the women is probably do like a fatal four-way, or, you know, in order to throw people on the card or whatever else, probably like a fatal four-way, at the most like a 6-person match, for, you know, an opportunity at a championship or something like that. That would have made a little bit more sense. As Mex said, I'm perplexed. I didn't even know this was a thing until Mex said it. There's qualifying matches. Again, who are the teams? I completely forgot Emma was back in WWE.
Likewise.
Literally. So that this one is weird. And what's crazy as well, going kind of back to the men's one as well, with the women's one, you've got one team's in there already. You've got 3 haven't been named yet. I think the men should have been a very similar thing in terms of probably announce 2 or 3, and then have one team enter either the week before or on the night. I mean, I know it's kind of up in the air, up in smoke at the moment, but for FTR to come out on at WrestleMania,
I have been saying that I still believe, like, I'm not gonna believe FTR is not gonna show up until they don't show up.
Yeah. I
like
mean,
that's just
even Authors of Pain would have been a nice surprise as
that
well.
would have been.
You know what I mean? Even that would have been a nice surprise as well. So,
and who knows? They may hold that fourth spot open. Again, you know, the entire wrestling world is going to be in LA that weekend. So there's no telling who could show up, who finishes out their contractual obligations with whatever said promotions, and then makes their way over to WrestleMania. They might even, you know what? They're at the point where they could do almost anything. They could do a one-match deal with somebody. Could you imagine? You know what I mean?
Of course.
Like they totally could do something like that. So
I mean,
I wouldn't put it past them.
I mean, we could even have Alpha Academy split up before the match even happens, and then there's a spot, and then boom, we get something. So the possibilities are there, and we'll see. And it's actually a shame. Before I move on to the next thing, it's actually a shame that Imperium are not involved in that match.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They are far more worthy.
Gunther's going to be in a triple threat match. They don't necessarily
or
need
even
to
the
be
Brawling
about
Brutes. Where are they?
I think they're a long finish because they're already talking about Pete Dunne's being officially changed back to Pete Dunne. He's not going to be Butch anymore. Apparently, he's backstage. He's been changed back to Pete Dunne. So
the Lord,
listen, he is still working, huh? Oh my God, that's just real quick.
I think the Brawling Brutes.
He'll give you your name back.
they've been distanced from Sheamus on TV for a minute now, if you noticed. So
yeah, of course.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Of course. With the last few minutes that we have of the show, let's talk about that final thing that we want to talk about. Gerard's favorite superstar at the moment. I'm gonna ask the question, Gerard. Are you an Omos sapien?
I would love to know, what is the battle call for the Homo sapiens, right? Like, do you put your fist up? You put your hand up? You try to push somebody? Like, what do you do if you're an Homo sapien? You just roar! I'm an Homo sapien. Roar! Like, I would love to know, what are the fan club meetings like? If you're an Homo sapien, right? Like, you know, the Beehive, they've got the bee and, you know, they do the buzz thing. What do the Homo sapiens do? I'd love to know that. I really would. When I saw that tweet today, like where he's greeting his Homo sapiens, I was just like, huh? Now, granted, I think it's creative. I think it's very creative.
It is.
Because, you know, I would never imagine Omos having a fan club. Not saying there aren't fans, but an organized group of fans that are going to be stands for Omos. What? Like, I want to see this. I want to see the gear for the Homo sapiens. Like, what does that look like? Is everything oversized? Like, what does it look like? I want to know. These are pressing questions. Maybe somebody can find out at Wale Mania. Like, I want to know, what is it that makes you an Homo sapien? I just have to know.
Crazy.
I have to know. And I'll tell you, after last night on Raw, I'm just going, so we're going to build up to him versus Brock with Mustafa Ali. Surely. Okay. Yeah, so with 11 days left till Mania, I mean, the best thing they did was that tail of the tape and of course the great edited video. But what happens next week? I'm sure there's going to be a face-to-face on the go-home show for Raw. Oh, that's right. They're supposed to have a signing, right? Aren't they supposed to have the contract signing? I think so. I thought that's what I saw.
I don't know.
I thought that's what I saw. It's all running together right now. But
next week, the prophecy of Gerard has to come true because Lord knows there is a man that is missing right now from WrestleMania.
Hear me good. All of the Homo sapiens could not put this thing back together because whether it be night 1 or night 2, the Homo sapiens will not stop the Almighty. The Almighty will show up and take Omos And I know Omos got his real good church clothes ready for next weekend. Like they're real good. I mean, he's like, I don't need Easter. Give me Palm Sunday. It's WrestleMania Sunday. Let me do that. And he's gonna have his chance to give his Easter speech. And Lashley's gonna say, not so. Because Lashley's gonna come in and save this situation where finally we get Lashley Lesnar 4. I'm pushing for it. Triple H, you hear me? All of you guys hear me? This is the thing to do. It's just mysterious that Lashley has not been anywhere near our TV screens in 2 to 3 weeks. There's a reason. Y'all aren't taking him off of WrestleMania. Oh, no, you aren't. You're going to give him what he wants. And there doesn't need to be any bigger buildup than what we already know. I'm telling you now, thank you, Omos, for this free promo time. Maybe you can travel to Puerto Rico at Backlash and take on Brock Lesnar. But for WrestleMania, step to the side and let the Almighty show up.
Real talk, because I just find it perplexing that this whole thing, and I think the problem is this match is happening at WrestleMania. That's the biggest problem here. That's the biggest problem here. As big as Omos is, as great as that Tale of the Tape video was, they tried so hard. Then they gave him that squash match. Like,
what are we doing?
No. And the problem is between every match that Omos has ever had, or the decent matches with Braun Strowman and whatever else, all of his singles matches have just simply been squash matches.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I'm just like, someone says, not with the homophobia, right?
That's hilarious. That's really good, actually.
Homophobia,
really
I like
good.
that. I like that.
Really good.
But you know, I'm with you with Gerard and Gerard's dream. You know, and I love the fact actually that you pointed out that it's going to be Palm Sunday, because trust me, I will be rejoicing the same way the people did when Jesus came in.
Hosanna!
When the Almighty comes in to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
Oh yes,
I'm hoping that this is. I'm still in hope that this is what we're going to get. Again, this is not homophobia necessarily. I love Omos, but it's just not. It's just not working.
It's not Mania.
Not working. It's not Mania. It's not Mania. It's not working. And guys, on that note, this is the end of our show. You have been watching Wrestle Extra. You are watching on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, put comments, and click that notification bell so you know when this guy Mex is putting up his videos and reactions to Raw, to WWE, actually, AEW, and everything else in wrestling. Follow him on WrestleMania.uk on Instagram, WrestleMania UK on Twitter. Follow this guy, Gerard and Gerard's Dream, on the Faction Show Bonafide on every platform you can find, and over all the other places that you can find him as well. You can find and follow me, A Dazzle on the Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, and BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Guys, that's been our show. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time.
Peace out, guys.